Hi, Julie here from RV Tips and Bits, and today I'm going to attempt to install the new Helwig sway bar for the Mercedes Sprinter 3500 2019. I did see where many have commented that the Helwig is thicker and heavier than the one that is on the Mercedes Sprinter 3500 that we have, and I did definitely see that difference. I am not a mechanic, but after learning and researching, I acquired one of these torque wrenches, which is you absolutely have to have in order to do this project. This is the only technical tool you really need. So it actually works out really well, and it's a handy tool to have on hand anyways. They are simple to use. You just need to make sure that you learn exactly the technique of using them and setting them to the setting that is recommended for that bolt. I like the black one instead of actually the silver one that I used because the black one is easier to read the numbers on the side to set the torque that you want. I did jack up the back tires just enough to get off the ground using our leveling jacks, and then some supporting jacks on the side for safety. Then it was just a matter of going around and loosening all the bolts. I did them somewhat evenly across without doing one completely, and then that way when the bar was loose it would come down evenly and not bend anything because of its weight. Personally, I also take pictures of everything the way it is in the beginning. That way if I need to refer back to it on how it was hooked up, I have those pictures. I don't trust myself from just memorizing, and you'd be surprised on what you think you know when you really don't have a reference. So here it is completely off, and I also lined it up with the new Helwig, and so that you could see the difference. So the one on the left is clearly the newer one, and it is much thicker. I also marked, before I took anything of the brackets off, I marked exactly where they were on the bar, and I also confirmed that the width of the bar is exactly the same as the one that was on there. I used a small sledgehammer. You could probably just use a hammer to gently tap off the bracket as it's on there pretty tight. So the inside bushing or bracket hard rubber that they give you to put around the bar has a split on it, and you just have to pry that apart to put that on. But before you do make sure that you grease up the inside with the grease that they provide you. If you use a screwdriver to pry it apart and then press the bar down with your weight as you're prying it apart, it falls in there pretty nicely. Then you can add the outside bracket to the covering and just use a hammer to tap it into place. I hung the hanging bolts first, and if you're by yourself, you can rest the bar on your knee so that way you have leverage to put them both up at the same time. Then you do the inside brackets, and this is the fun part where you get to do the torquing. So it's 89 from memory, I think, and the center part brackets and the U-shaped brackets, and it's 75 on the hanging ones. Worked out pretty good. Took a little bit of muscle, some probably easier for others. Yeah, so to use these torque wrenches, pretty easy. At the bottom of it, you want to loosen up the cap on the bottom, and then at this point you can dial into the torque that is recommended. So you would line the 0 up to, say, the 70 mark for the outside hanging lugs, and then dial the numbers to number 5, so you'd have 75. And then on the 89, you dial the 0 up to 80, and then turn the numbers all the way to 9, and you'd have the 89. And then once you choose your socket that fits your bolt, then you're going to keep tightening it until you reach a clicking sound. And once you reach the clicking sound, you've reached the torque that you're supposed to be at. So just keep going slowly but gently until you get to that clicking sound. Yeah, so I think a pretty simple job that seems a little nerve-wracking going into it, but mission accomplished. And having the torque wrench is awesome to have, especially for all kinds of bolt needs with the tires, the brackets. It's a good handy tool to have on your RV or your Sprinter. I also did replace the springs, the rear and the front springs, with Sumo springs. The rear was the Sumo Springs 54, and that was a little bit of a challenge. After all the videos that I watched, they were using screwdrivers, but I don't know if because of my strength it just wasn't enough to push them into the slot that they go in. The one thing you want to remember on these is they're on one side of them, the slot that's on the side that you slide in, there's a deeper one and a more shallow one. You want the deeper one to go towards the front of the vehicle first, and then you work on pushing in the shallower one towards you with it. They say a screwdriver. I actually had to use a crowbar and get leverage from the ground, and I was able to get them in. The front Sumo springs is just a nut and bolt. So the biggest challenge you're going to have is getting your hand in there to be able to unscrew the bolt and put the new bolt on when you add the new springs. Actually, using the socket set that we pictured here earlier would be very handy as well, because you can use a little bit of a longer one to get in there to unscrew it and to tighten it. The more challenge is just getting the screw initially, the nut, I'm sorry, to be set on the screw itself. This tool came in super handy when I dropped the nut inside there and I had to keep retrieving it until I got it on there right. Good to have. Always looking to pick something out in a hard to reach place, and these work out awesome and they're cheap. It has a magnetic end that will pick up the nuts and bolts or whatever that is metal that you have dropped. Okay, there you have it. Sumo springs, front, back, and the Helwig sway bar, something I installed completely myself. And if I can do it, you can do it. Watch this video. There's a lot of other videos out there that are very helpful. All the product links are down below, so go ahead and click on those, and those are the products that I used for my rig, which is a Mercedes Sprinter 3500 2019 chassis. Be sure to subscribe and hit that alert button, as I'll be coming out with more and more Mercedes RV tips and bits. Thanks so much. Have a great day.